All right. Well, here we are on another very special episode of the Six Star Business Podcast, because this is the last one we're recording before the end of the year. And we snuck this one in before Christmas. So I almost feel like I should have had like tinsel and, a Santa hat or something. And so my apologies. Anyway, it's Merry Christmas to us all. So here we are. Joanne, my co-host, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome, Angela and Bronwyn. So lovely to have you.
Hey, lovely to be here.
Wonderful. So to get us started, I'd like to ask you the lovely, famous questions I ask all our guests, just so our audience can get to know who you are a little bit. And if you could let us know who you are, where you are in the world, who you serve, maybe how you serve them, and something you like to do when you're not working. Who'd like to?
I'm happy to go first. That's no worries at all. So as you can tell, I have an accent and I am a proud Canadian, and I always say, what is there not to love about being Canadian when we have moose, we've got great beer, and we've got the world's best hockey player, Wayne Gretzky. So, I mean, life's pretty good when you're from Canada, I say. However, I do live in the beautiful part of Brisbane, Australia, on the east coast of Australia. And how do I serve them? I work predominantly with women all around the world to get all the pieces in place to help them have consistent 4- and 5-figure months, and then on to 6- and 7-figure years without burning out in the process. I'm an ex-mental health clinician of 15 years where I used to diagnose people with schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, bipolar, autism, etc. And so it's really important that women are able to get more wealth in their hands, but doing it in a way that is in alignment with ease and without burning out. And how do I do that? Well, I work with women one-on-one. I work with women in my mastermind. I work with women in my accelerator program. I've been running my podcast for the last 3.5 years. And I also run Australia's leading women in business retreat every year. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and who I serve. And what do I do when I'm not working? Listen, this is always an interesting question. Yes, I like to travel, and yes, I like to be with my kids, but I actually love what I do. So there's often times I will have my nose in a book. I will be doing something, watching another masterclass or something, because that's just what I love to do. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Well, I feel like an underachiever now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
My name is Bronwyn. I live in Emerald in central Queensland. For any of you who don't know where that is, if you go from Brisbane up the coast to Rockhampton, then turn left and drive for 3 hours, you'll arrive in Emerald, which is my hometown. My husband and I here run an environmental consultancy, which we have done for 25 years. But I branched out a couple of years ago and started using all the experience that I'd gained in our environmental company of dealing with massive multinational companies like BHP, Rio Tinto, federal governments, etc., and put all that into a book, because when I started out, I knew absolutely nothing about dealing with these giants, and I made all the mistakes and wasted all the money. So that was my first book, and that's since grown. There's a program around it, and earlier this year, I released my second book, which is about those same small businesses dealing with crises, because we all know there's another crisis around the corner. Just don't know quite what it'll be, but it will be coming. In my non-working time, a bit like Angela, I'm not quite sure that there is much, but at the moment it seems that I do nothing but look after my dachshund dogs, who are giving me all sorts of trouble. One went missing this week, so...
Wow, wonderful. You ladies are busy. busy. And I'm sure, Angela, with having 2 young children, you're also busy in your spare time as well with them around.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, kids are always, I love them. They don't go away. So you just make everything work in between. So yes.
You too. Yes.
How old are your kids?
Yes, so Finley is 12 and Chloe is 8. So we're entering the world of high school next year. So again, things will start to change and everything feels more like a bit like an Uber driver. So yes, that's what I feel my world is changing into at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can. Well, I'm sure we're all Yeah.
All
We're
parents.
Yes, we are.
Mine have grown up, and my son is home, so he's being the Uber driver now.
Mine's too. Excellent.
So I'm really fascinated to know, Angela, if I can ask you first, what was it about the Six Star podcast and the notion of the Six Star business that attracted you to come on the podcast and talk to us today?
I mean, yes, I think there's a few things there. First of all, I'm very big about human-to-human marketing, and that is the essence of the experience and interaction one faces with a particular brand. I think people are really focused on B2B and B2C, but ultimately I think people are forgetting that behind every transaction is a human being, and behind those transactions are people who want to be seen, want to be heard, want to be included, I guess. And so for me, is when I heard about this particular podcast, it was one of the things I thought, okay, great. Where can we start having conversations about Six Star service? And what does that look like compared to what I would say the same? I do believe the old will become the new again, meaning having those conversations. I believe conversations plus connections equal conversions. And I believe people are always after the conversion. Well, again, relationships take time, relationships take energy. And so why is everything about the transaction? Well, that's because a lot of the information that we consume on the internet, what we're being told we have to do versus being told about, again, just treating people like people.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's a lot in that. There's a lot in what you just said. And I think we can all relate to that. And one thing that you focused on was all about this connection. And without the connection, the human spirit, the human being isn't honoured. And that's certainly been I guess a consistent theme and thread through a lot of our conversations on the podcast. And yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring and delving more into that today. Bronwyn, what about yourself?
What prompted me to come on the podcast? I met you, Evelyn, through another avenue, and then I started looking, and I really resonated with the way that you are approaching business. It just seemed to click. So as soon as we started talking, I thought, oh, this lady's going to be my new best friend. So it was just a connection that I really, on a deep level, I understand and I empathise, and I fully get what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I love the theme that's running between these two ladies. It's this human element and the connection and relationship, particularly like that. That's very Six Star. It's nice.
Yeah. I'm really fascinated to learn more about both of you, and I was wondering if you could share a bit of your journey. So what tell us about your journey that's brought you to where you are today, that's shaped you, whatever. I'd love to know more about you.
Yeah, I'm happy to go forward here. Listen, I mean, how long is a piece of string and how far do we go back? I guess the business journey collectively is, as I said, I started off with an undergrad in psychology and sociology. I did my master's here at the University of Queensland in social work. And then I went back to America, actually, where I did my clinical prac. And then I came back to Australia from there. So, I mean, I've been a little bit all over the shop, I guess you could say, but ultimately I'm driven by people, I'm driven by humans, I'm driven by connection, regardless if I'm acting in the role of a mental health clinician or AKA an accredited social worker, or whether or not I'm a business consultant. And so for me, it's not about mass numbers. It's always been about making sure that people are seen and heard, and whether or not that's been an advocate for people in a mental health unit whose rights have been taken away, or whether or not it's a woman who might not have financial resources at her fingertips right now, but has a really great business idea. And again, if she had a little bit of support and guidance from that, what would her world look like, and to be in a different realm? But yeah, ultimately, my business journey started off when my 9-month-old son was just sitting on the floor. We were playing together one day, and I just remember looking down at him and seeing like all these electronical toys that were sitting there. And I thought, okay, well, this is all really great and good. And listen, my kids have iPads, and yes, we all love, electronics, but I was like, 9 months old, there's got to be a better way for him to be able to play, find motor skill development, gross motor skill development, spark imagination and creativity. And that's when I went looking for a variety of different educational toys that would help with those particular components. And so from there, what we did is, I started my first business, which was an e-com platform. We started off with 0 products, 0 everything. And when we closed Finley and Me, we had over 1,400 different products. We were one of Australia's leading educational toy stores. But I also was able to learn the essence of multiple income streams. So people wanted my audience. And through blogging, I also became one of Australia's leading bloggers. I was signed with Netflix as one of their top kind of 30 bloggers and influencers here in Australia and New Zealand. But again, it was the reason why that happened was, again, I was sharing a voice. I was talking about, struggles with women and loneliness, the loss of themselves once you become a mother, and a variety of other topics. So that's ultimately where my business journey started. It was never planned. It was never thought out. It just kind of happened that day, playing on the ground with Finley, looking for other opportunities. And now, as I said, I work with women. So that's a little bit more about the journey of where it started from my education and social work and clinician work all the way through to here.
Wow.
So
that's unexpected. The e-commerce business along this journey, but what a wonderful amount of experience you've learnt along the way. And diversity of product, all those sort of things are so important, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing, is it was never intended. I mean, even the consulting side of things was never intended. It was after 14 coffee dates in a span of a couple of months when people just kept asking me to pick my brain. And as a social worker and being a bit of a giver, I was a bit naive in the consulting space about what pick your brain means, which is really, I just want free advice. And so I learned very quickly after that it was okay to charge for my expertise. It was safe for me to charge money for this. And that's how the consulting business came. And it was, again, never planned. It just kind of evolved.
Yeah, what a fascinating story. And I love how your educational background and social work, which is obviously driven from an internal large heart and a big purpose, you've come with that foundation into the business world. And that's a really unique transition and pathway, I feel. Very unique. And what's been I guess one of the most difficult things that you've had to overcome that's helped you or served you along that journey?
Listen, I often talk about, I still worked full time up until 3 years ago as a mental health clinician for 40 hours a week. So I wouldn't say that was the hard time, because I had really strict boundaries about what I was doing, when I was doing it, and who I was with. But if there's 2 things that I'd have to say is, one is I had to overcome the notion of balance. I actually think balance is bullshit. I think people are fed into this notion of having to have, if you think about the word balance, it's equal distribution amongst whatever that is for each individual, but things are never going to be equal. And so the fact that women, in my opinion, continue to strive for this balance, the guilt and shame with that associated with it continues to enhance daily, because we're not able to distribute equal amounts of us across all parties. And so the first thing I had to learn was to replace balance with being present. And I had to understand that if I'm away keynote speaking in America, that it's okay that I'm present in America with those particular people. And of course I'll speak to my children, but I'm ultimately not present with them. I'm doing a job, you could say. And I had to be okay with that. And I had to be okay that I could also be an amazing woman in business and equally be an amazing mother, and that it's okay to have both. In a culture where everything is driven by a woman not everything, but a large portion of you are a woman and your role is to be in a kitchen and you're to do X, Y, and Z. community, I also had to learn that it was okay that I was one of the only women at a lot of events, because again, my partner, my husband, he was supportive, and he, I use the air quotes, allowed me to travel and do my things. But if he didn't allow me, that would have been fine, because I would have left him and I still would have found a way to make it happen. Yes. Right? So I say that, but I would ask people, why they didn't go to events, and they said, oh, I can't leave the children with my husband. I can't do this because my husband won't know how to take them. And for me, I was in that at the beginning, but I had to again reframe that. I had to go, well, what a beautiful opportunity for my children to see that there's the sperm donor, aka my husband, their father, is able to still cook a meal, still do laundry, still do school pickup, still do school drop off. And what an amazing opportunity for my daughter to see that women don't have to be stuck in one role. And what an amazing opportunity for my son to see his dad stepping up and doing these things too. So I really had to learn to reframe that also. So to relearn how to frame the notion of balance. And I also equally had to learn to reframe the importance of I can be a great mom, but I can equally be an amazing woman in business.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah, I do
wow,
too.
It'd be a tough gig.
Yeah. It resonates deeply. We speak a lot about, it's a tough gig being a mum, and not feeling guilty, as you say, Angela, but this piece about balance being bullshit, excuse me, it is. Because, business and life and business, when you're connected, are deeply connected, right? And
I actually find it a bit offensive,
not a balancing
that
act.
term, because saying work-life balance, that the underlying assumption is that when you're at work, you're not living, and that doesn't compute for me. Yes. I have chosen this life of being a business owner. I didn't fall into it like Angela. I think I always knew I would finish up being in business. My parents were in business for themselves and together as a husband and wife team. My husband's parents were in business for themselves, husband and wife team. So it just wasn't ever going to work out any other way. So the way I was brought up and the way my husband was brought up, and now the way our kids have been brought up, is that work is life. Life is work. We even built our office. We have an acreage block right on the edge of town, so we built our office on the acreage block. So the kids were always part of wandering in and out of the office and taking all the pens and the markers. So, just to round that out, I actually find the work-life balance meme to be quite, I find it offensive.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. There's a connotation that you imagine these scales, and that's the equal thing that isn't really equal.
Well, it sort of speaks about that there's a pressure, there's an anxiety there that you've got to get this thing balanced, and that if it does this sort of business where you're doing it wrong, the whole connotation is
well. Obviously, both Angela invalid. and I know you, Aveline. Our work is about doing good things. For the last 25 years, I've been the director of an environmental services company, where our job is to help our clients. Yes, we've got to use our resources. Yes, we've got to live on this planet, but our job is to help them do that with the least environmental impact possible. That is what we've done. We were talking about the sustainability stuff 35 years ago, before sustainability became a fashionable word. So my work is my life, which is doing the things that I believe deeply, and clearly Angela does as well.
Nice.
Bronwyn, would you like to share a little bit about your journey? You've mentioned you've been running an environmental agency for 25 years. So, I'd love to hear more about the backstory that's brought you to here.
I was brought up
where you are today,
not far from here. I grew up on a farm. I had one of those ideal childhoods where I was never hot, I was never cold, I was never hurt, I was never hungry. I have what I call a totally forgettable childhood, which is why we brought our kids back to be brought up in Australia. As I said, my parents were a model. They were in business for themselves. So I did the whole boarding school, university routine. Met my now husband in first year at uni, but we were a bit slow on the uptake. We didn't get married until 13 years later. And we spent the best part of a decade wandering the planet with Ian's work, living in underdeveloped parts of underdeveloped countries. So there's this theme that's gone through my whole life of being a small business or being the smaller person dealing with a much larger organisation. Because even where we were in our travels, in the types of places we were and the types of work Ian was doing, the local economy will often be dominated by one large industry or one large company. So you've got this continual tension between the one large employer, company, provider of economic benefits. And certainly there you have completely unempowered small businesses and individuals. At the end of 1996, we came back to Australia. Our first daughter had been born, and we set up the environmental company. And so now I do the environmental company, but I'm also doing my speaking, writing, blogging, workshops on the small company, big company theme. And now I'm doing a lot of work on the small businesses facing crisis theme. And I didn't just write that book as a response to COVID either. I started writing that several years ago. And as I say in the book, my experience of small businesses facing crises goes right back to when I was a kid. One of my earliest memories is going out with my older brother before school in the morning to feed the cattle during a drought. And then doing the same thing in the afternoon when we got home. My older brother was unfortunately killed. So I've seen what a crisis can do, and a family crisis can do, to derail a small business. Then, of course, I've lived through a couple of share market booms and busts, and our environmental company went through the resources boom and bust from 2008, 2012, 13. We lost 3/4 of our business in a matter of weeks. So I've had quite a few experiences of being a small business, A, dealing with big businesses, and B, dealing with a crisis. So my whole thing now with the books and the speaking and the workshops is trying to help other small business owners make the mistakes and waste the money that I did.
Right. So it's preventative, as in you're creating awareness and prevention of crises should external factors come in.
Because most small business owners just run a mile, because the risk management industry, I call it an industry, they've made it so complex with their own language and jargon and acronyms and, and yes, that is needed, but that is not being translated through to the small business owner. So what I've tried to do is strip all of that out. I don't even use the word risk management, to put a simple framework in front of a business owner, a small business owner, that they can work through, that will give them the preparation and the forethought that they need.
What do you call it then, Bronwyn, if it's not risk management?
Well, I call the plan a cardio plan, which is my little made-up acronym. Because when you get into the risk management terminology, everything, there's a continuity plan, there's an innovation plan, there's a risk management plan, there's a this plan, and they're all actually different. So I just put it all together and created the cardio plan, which is continuity, adaptability, resilience, dexterity, innovation, and opportunity. So I've just lumped all of them in to make a simple cardio plan.
Nice. I like that. I know I work with a lot of small businesses as well, helping them to become large. And one of the things that I speak about is working with large organisations, but also reflecting on large organisations have business rhythms for a reason. And so small businesses, if they can adopt those in the early stages so that they can build this resilience and identifying the opportunity. But I know when I speak to small business owners, they have this abhorrence to thinking that, oh, I'm just this little business. It's a mindset piece, right? If you want to be big, you've got to be prepared to play with the bigger players. So I love that you've come up with this acronym of cardio, and that it's to help small business not be a business failure, but to be able to legitimately sit at the table with somebody across the street who's probably got a very nice suit on, potentially, or something like that, but to be able to have a confident conversation to do business with others. Because that's how large get larger, is to work with other businesses.
And I love the way that you said.
I think you raised.
I love that.
Sorry, Joanne.
I think you raised an important point there, that the essence of mindset, right, is that there can be all the tools and all strategies in the world, but in my experiences, being a business owner and working with thousands of women around the world, is if you have a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, opportunities and outcomes are very, very different. In the last 3.5 years, I lost my grandmother on Christmas, my brother on Mother's Day, a father type figure on New Year's Day, another business friend 2 weeks after that, and a best friend just recently. So there's been significant death, and not just minimizing, like, it's not the neighbor down the road. These are all people who have played pretty significant roles in my life throughout, years. And so, again, people often ask, well, how were you able to keep going? How did you keep producing a podcast every week? How did you, whatever, X, Y, and Z? But the thing is my mindset was pretty solid, right? Like, I didn't minimize the grief. I still grieved. When I need to grieve, a song could come on and I'll be crying at a drop of a hat. But the reality of it is I still was always looking for opportunity. Similar to when COVID came, I had many clients where we had to, I hate the word pivot, but that's what we had to do. We had to pivot and adapt accordingly based on the circumstances that were presented in front of us. One of my clients, we had to cancel all of her trips to Vietnam, Mexico, a variety of things. She's like a renowned kind of international artist. We moved everything online and we hit $2.2 million within 12 months, more money she's made in her entire pretty much artist lifespan, right? But her mindset, she was willing to change. She was willing to adapt. She was willing to look for opportunity, where I could have another artist doing something very similar, but if her mindset was fixed, the outcome would be very different. And so again, I do think mindset is crucial in all of these elements, because if your mindset is weak, you typically are fixed. You're not even looking for opportunity because you're too much in this, do you know what I mean, like closet, right? And that's fine, but again, it's, as a business consultant, I would be negligent, in my opinion, to say that everything in business comes down to strategy. I believe there's a component of strategy, there's a component of healing, there's a component of energy, there's a component of mindset. And when you infuse these together is where I see women really excel at their greatest. But healing is messy. Mindset is messy. And these are the things that are often pushed to the side or to the bottom of the to-do list on a regular basis. Whereas, again, I think more conversations and more stories about this could actually help more women get more wealth into their hands.
Wow, what stories? Joanne?
I know. Look, there's some themes between these two ladies, and 6-star is the minimum they're going to be, from what I perceived, and I'd love to get to know them a bit better. They're all about the human connection. I love this human to human marketing. I really like that as a phrase and a mindset, because it is a shift of mindset. And they both spoke passionately about this this perception of life balance thing it's constantly being spoken about and people are looking to achieve. And it's such a crock. It's such a crock because when you are deeply connected to your business is your life and your life is your business, right? And so, Angela, just for your benefit, we thought Evelyn and I would just do a little bit of a summary of you two ladies. And I'm hoping I'm doing you justice. So as I said, I love this human-to-human marketing aspect that you spoke about. Everything is about helping the individual to realise the opportunity of a growth mindset that, women are, I've spoken about this. One of my topics that I speak about is this glass ceiling that's imposed on us, often as ladies as well. In corporate, we're all taught to be employees, not taught to be entrepreneurs and business women, and that we can have it all. That's something that I've spoken deeply with my daughter who's 25, that she can have everything, and so can I. And I'm thankful I have a supportive husband who brings me coffee every morning. It's very kind. But this connection to human, this connection to self, do the work self first, and then you are able to do the bigger things. And, Bronwyn, as you know, Evelyn, doing business with large business is something that I've done well, thankfully, but also come up with a way to go about it. So, Bronwyn, we're just doing a little bit of a summary between you two ladies, given the challenge of the internet. So I've spoken enough. Av, what's your take?
Oh, man, I wish we had, first of all, perfect internet, but I also wish I had a lot more time with you both. And I think it would be so good to have you back in the new year on another episode, and we can continue the conversation. I feel like what we've covered today is kind of like an entree.
Just a teeny bit.
I feel like we've just sort of come out,
touch the
surface, and the next conversation will be let's dive in. Because there are so many things that you've both raised that I know I could just talk about for ages and ask you so many questions. And I guess the thing that really shines for me is that both of you have had these incredible experiences that have obviously, helped shape and mold who you are. And you both have this mindset that is not shaped by society or someone else telling you what it is. It's about you, and and you internally know who you are, what you want. The whole, you can have it all, you can have whatever you want. And that's the key. So it doesn't have to be everything, but it's just everything that you want.
You can have more.
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to women taking responsibility for their fucking life.
Well said.
End of conversation, really, right? Like, there's so many women, and I say women because that's who I roll with on any given day, but they're happy to blame their husband that this didn't work out. They're happy to blame the kids because this didn't work out. They're happy to blame this. But I'm like, every morning when you wake up and your feet hit the ground, your life, your responsibility, and whatever you are not changing, you are choosing.
Yeah.
So if you are, if you're whinging about your husband, if you're whinging about your fitness and you're doing that, but whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. So if you're complaining about being overweight, but you're not changing anything around that, that's a choice that you are still actively making on any given day. If you, again, grief, right? For both Bronwyn and I, whatever that looks like if I'm not willing to go and look at working with healers and counselors or whatever to work through the grief, then obviously it's going to impact me. But I have a choice. So every single day we have choice. And choice isn't necessarily easy. Choice is typically, it can be messy, it can be ugly. But at the end of the day, it is our life and our responsibility, and we need to stop blaming others for that.
Well said. I can't.
Yeah. That's so big. That whole victim mentality thing that I am just the subject of forces. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I will own up that I have been there, at times of severe stress in my life. That, it must be me. It's everything's happening to me, and that's a really dangerous place to go. But I agree with you, Evelyn, that there's a lot more that we could talk about. And you and I have spoken about this in the past. There is a big shift coming in business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been actually writing about it for several years now, and wondering why people don't listen to me. But there is a big shift coming in the way we approach business and the way we approach our communities and the way that we approach our society.
Yeah. I think
And it's going to be good.
I think we need to book in another time, Evelyn.
We will.
All the kids are back at school and they're off the internet. And we can have a great conversation. It'd be lovely.
Yeah. The way I would really love to, wrap things up in our entree conversation today by asking both of you, not at the same time, of course, like individually, is something that you can leave our listeners with, sort of something that is an aha or a takeaway, something they can process, think about, put in place based on everything that we've spoken about today. The guru, the wisdom from Bronwyn. There you go. You can go first.
Okay, I'll go first. It's exactly what we were just talking about, the not allowing yourself to be the subject of external forces that are going to push you and pull you. I talk about business crises. Now, the crises are going to come. There's going to be another one. I don't know what it's going to be, like a council bus. It'll be along at some point. But there are things you can do to prepare yourself for that. And exactly the way that Angela is saying is that you can take control of things in your life. Yes, some people have, a lot of big uphill climbs to make, but to sit and to not do anything and complain when the inevitable happens, that's what we've got to try not to do.
Yeah, thank you, Bronwyn. I really, really appreciate that. Angela?
I mean, listen, it's always hard to choose one, but if I had to choose anything, I would go back to the basics in life in general and go back to those basics around, again, conversations. Where in your life are you having conversations with people? That's it, really. Stop trying to overcomplicate things with more funnels, more email sequences, more. Go back to the basics. Yeah. You can run a business with ease. You can run a business with flow. You can run a business with elegance, and you don't have to do more. You don't have to work harder. So for me, it would be around, again, conversations. Where are you just going back to the basic notion of connecting with people? Because, again, I do believe conversations plus connections, and inevitably you will become profitable.
Yeah, fully. I 100% agree, and I love that. Thank you. I'm such a big believer in keeping things simple and going back to basics, and I feel like we really have overcomplicated life, right?
We've lost it.
Yeah. And the other thing is the lovely tie-in to everything else we've talked about is by having conversations and creating connections, we help create the support network to help us survive when crises happen.
Indeed.
Yeah. There's actually a really big resilience factor in surviving a business crisis. But 40% of businesses won't survive a crisis. And 25% of the survivors will fail within 1 year and 90% will fail within 2 years. One of the big resilience success factors is connection.
Wow, thank you so much, Bronwyn. Thank you, Angela. I know we've been challenged with technology and internet issues today, but I'm really grateful for your being here and sharing, and I look forward to the new year when we can have another conversation too.
Yeah.
Main course.
Yes.
Main course.
Absolutely.
I'd love
Sounds
to connect
great.
with you.
Yes, let's all do that.
So thank you. Have a wonderful Christmas.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much. Have a lovely day and Merry Christmas to you and your
Have a
family
wonderful
too.
Christmas.